Hello, Curious! In recent weeks, social media has been talking about the upcoming movie starring Adam Driver and Lady Gaga, and which focuses on the Gucci family and is simply titled The House of Gucci. And this time, we're going to be talking about the real story surrounding one of the most recognized dynasties in the world of high fashion, and the iconic marriage of Maurizio Gucci and Patrizia Reggiani. So, who were these people? And what was the reason for Patrizia to take the life of her ex-husband? Well, what were the most controversial statements of the famous Black Widow following the crime committed? And how has the event marked the life of one of the most polemic dynasties of the world of fashion celebrities? And what would she tell Maurizio if she had the chance? And this is just the beginning, as there are many more interesting facts about the fashion family, so make sure to stay with us until the very end to learn about all of them. But before we continue, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, turn on the notifications, and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss any of our future videos, which we happen to publish daily. So after 20 years, the echoes of one of the most notorious crimes in the world of fashion are still heard. And to be precise about what went down on March 27th of 1995, at around 8:30 in the morning, the fashion designer Maurizio Gucci arrived at the usual place of work that was located in Milan, Italy, specifically via Palestro. So he did so, and he'd done so every single day to start his day and work day. So in the last few moments of his life, he had to say good morning to the doorman in the building, Giuseppe Onorato, and began to head down to the office, down the stairs. And it was at that moment that he was injured by a firearm. And according to reports at the time, the aforementioned doorman at first had thought that this was just a joke. But soon, he saw that that was not the case, and Giuseppe was the last person that saw Maurizio alive, and he was the one who held his body until he passed away. And this is a story that marked the family forever, and the role of the designer is played by Adam Driver, about whom you can find out more by checking out our previous video by clicking on the link above. But for now, stay with us to find out what led to such a heinous crime. The tragedy in which Maurizio Gucci lost his life has been one of the most controversial cases that has happened in the world of fashion and show business, and people could not stop talking about the event and the passing of the renowned fashion designer, which had led to the Italian public as well as the rest of the world in an uproar. However, it seems that up until a few months ago, it was as if people were not interested in the fashion and of such criminal cases, and they had forgotten about it. And that was until Lady Gaga and Adam Driver had been cast in the production and once again stirred up the resentment about this case. And especially around the women who the press has dubbed the Black Widow, but also about the Gucci family and especially the daughters of his couple, which we will talk about more in a moment. And just like you would expect of any crime or any action movie, the Italian police dedicated a lot of effort into making a full investigation into what happened, which in turn led to the conviction of 5 people who had been involved. And one of them was none other than his ex-wife, who had later spent 18 years behind bars, and who was freed in 2016. But back in the days, the crime happened and there was talk of an even greater conspiracy, in which the allegedly international forces were at work to end the life of the fashion designer due to economic interests. And it looks like people lose their senses when it comes to money and greed, and while not as drastic as the case of Maurizio where greed is concerned, and many also talked about how those close to her took advantage of Britney Spears, and if you want to know more about that, then we leave you with a link into the playlist dedicated about the singer. Though for now, we'll get back to the case at hand where the person who was responsible for taking the life of Gucci was a man named Benedetto Cerulao, the owner of a pizzeria whose debts had left him desperate, and others involved had also been Pina Auriemma and the hotel porter of Ivano Saviano, or the driver Oriazzo Zizzala, and of course Gucci's ex-wife, and the reason for which we'll talk about more in a moment. And while this is a dark story involving the fashion family, why not check out our video about other dark secrets of the fashion industry, which you can do so by clicking on the link above to our new channel, CURIOSIPS WOW. In real life, Reggiani by some has been called a totally intriguing character, and the lady in question could have been released from prison as early as 2011, but she turned down the offer as the time that she became eligible for parole under a work release program, and that was something that she just didn't want to do. In talking about her reason, she said that simply, "I've never worked in my life, and I'm certainly not going to start now." And maybe she had even come to enjoy her time in prison, as her lawyers had been able to negotiate some comforts for her, and among her privileges was that she could even take care of her pet, and that was a ferret named Bambi. And despite her conviction, she had never stopped being involved in the world of fashion, working as a design consultant with Beaux-Art, a renowned costume jewelry designer based in Milan. However, while she might have later had those privileges in her early time in prison, it wasn't easy, as in 2000 she had tried to take her own life, and her two daughters, Alessandra and Allegra, had tried to help their mother's case, while the latter even studying law by claiming that a brain tumor that she had removed in 1992 had affected her ability to see, and that was the reason. But then, as we mentioned before, she was released in 2016 after serving 18 years of her 29-year sentence. And when she got out of prison, she had filed for bankruptcy, which surprised many, as the first thing that she did after setting foot outside as a free woman, she allegedly gone shopping in the most luxurious designer stores. And in the interest that had resurfaced again after many years, when a journalist from The Guardian tracked down her for an interview, once again causing a stir in the case, as well as the character of the woman who had stopped the Italian elite in its tracks, and that had caused irreparable losses to the Gucci family. So for now though, let's get to know the woman a little bit better. Patrizia Reggiani was born in December 2nd of 1948 in Vignolia, a small town in Emilia-Romagna in a region of Italia. So she was born in poverty, but she and her mother had later escaped when her mother had married a wealthy entrepreneur. And although she had later become an heiress to a good fortune, she allegedly never fit into the Milanese high society. However, that changed when she was 20 years old and met Maurizio. So talking about that time in an interview, she said, "I met Maurizio at a party and fell madly in love. I was exciting and different, and the two married in 72, and yet this family was against the union, especially after his father Rodolfo Gucci." So she had revealed that he had called her stepfather and warned him that he would not allow her to be involved in the management of his empire, though looking back at the history of the family, we know that his wishes never came true. And Maurizio, who had graduated a university with a degree in law and economics, began to think of his own plan for Gucci, which was not in line with his cousin's visions of turning it into the most luxurious ready-wear-to-wear factory in the world. And in 1983, he was the heir to 50% of the empire that Patrizia had played an important role, and there she pushed him to take control of the company. And this was the beginning of the end, as they were tormented with fights with family and the control of the brand. And this situation between the intrigues of the fights inside one of the biggest fashion dynasties of the world had given people much to talk about, and in the end they finally sold the remaining company stakes in 1993 for $120 million. And all this family drama inspired, among others, the movie that will be released in November and several books, including the one written by the widow of Paolo Gucci, Jenny Garwood, entitled Gucci Wars: How I Survived Murder and Intrigue at the Heart of the World's Biggest Fashion House. Despite the fact that by the time Patrizia and Maurizio had separated and were heading for divorce, which was finalized in 1994, she was still furious at him for making the decision, and speaking about it in an interview, she had said, "But above all this, losing the family business, it was stupid. It was a failure. I was filled with rage, but there was nothing I could do. He shouldn't have done that to me." However, there was more to this than just the business, as in 1990, Gucci had started a relationship with Paolo Franchi, whom he had planned to marry, with many pointing out that she was with him for love and not money because her previous husband had a bigger fortune than Maurizio. And this brings us to the crime, which Patrizia had orchestrated and which, according to the reports, took place not long before the planned second wedding. And as Oriema later would reveal in an interview, Patrizia did not want to see another woman next to her former husband, one that everyone would call Mrs. Gucci. And we will also add here that she wanted her daughters to be the only heirs and simply could not accept her husband's rejection and her loss of social status. And in addition, on the day of the crime that was committed, she and the word paradise were written in her diary. So that is the story of how and why Maurizio Gucci had lost his life. And as for his ex-wife, in an interview with The Guardian, she had complained that she now has to buy her clothes at Zara because what she gets paid at Beaux-Arts is not enough for herself to buy a proper closet, and has no contact with her daughters. And speaking about them, she said, "They do not understand me and have cut off my economic support. I have nothing, and I haven't even met my 2 grandchildren." Her fixation for the past is still alive, as she continues to say to this day that she would be the best ambassador for the Gucci brand. And talking about her ex-husband, she has said that if she had the opportunity to speak with him one more time, she would tell him that he was the last person that she loved the most in her life. So curious, what do you think about the story of one of the most controversial criminal cases in the history of the most powerful fashion family dynasties? Are you looking forward to seeing the movie starring Adam Driver and Lady Gaga? Do you think that Patrizia could ever serve as the brand ambassador for Gucci? And do you think that she deserves to meet her grandchildren someday? Let us know your thoughts about this case and in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time!